Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 172 of Album of the Day, in which for today's artist and album review that I'm doing today, I'm going to be talking about a Canadian singer-songwriter that was born in Nova Scotia and has been around since like the late 90s, kind of as a small, kind of obscure indie folky, but has since then turned into one of the most hugely acclaimed and successful singer-songwriters when it comes to kind of the spectrum of indie folk and indie singer-songwriter kind of music, some people may call it. I'm talking about the singer-songwriter known as Leslie Feist, even though better known as just her last name, Feist, by the people that follow her music and stuff like that. And she's put out like over 5 studio albums. It's been 6 years since her last full-length album, but I'm here to review her most recent album, her 5th album, which dropped on April the 29th earlier this year. And the album is called Pleasure. And as you can see, this is the vinyl that I have of that album. I had this on CD for a little while, but began to find myself just really loving this album a lot, and decided to go ahead and give it a little vinyl upgrade. So that's exactly what I did. I bought this at Desolation Row Records, which is a bookstore and record store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Actually, the same store I bought the Wood and Wand album that I reviewed previously. Because I bought this one the first day I went there, and the Wood and Wand vinyl the second day I went there. And let me say, this is a really pretty album cover, like 1,000 times prettier on the vinyl than on just the tiny little CD. It's so much brighter, which I prefer it when the colors on an album are so much brighter than they are on a CD, just because of the tiny format CD tends to be in. And then anyway, there's the back. More cool artwork. There's 11 tracks on this record, and it's over 53 minutes long. And this is on a major label called Interscope Records, where she's been signed for a little while now. And take a look at that beautiful gatefold right here. Really nice colors, I think, which I think really do sort of fit in with the tone of the music, too. Very pretty and dreamy and mystical and whatnot. Anyway, there's the first sleeve, which has the credits and the liner notes and everything, as well as, of course, gotta have the lyrics if you're gonna put an album on vinyl, because, just wouldn't be the same otherwise, in my opinion. And there's side A, and then there's side B. It's double LP, so that's the first LP right there. Just gotta be careful with vinyl. Sure it doesn't get too stuck in the crease there. There's a picture of Feist playing the guitar. Really nice photo right here. And more beautiful artwork that has the album title on it. And there isn't a side D, there's just a side C here. But on the back, some really cool artwork, which is like the Pleasure artwork shown here on the sleeve, basically kind of invisible in there, which I think is awesome. Yeah, there's a download part in here, so you're gonna have to give me a second. Oh well. I'll take care of it later. But anyway, that's my vinyl copy of the new Feist album, Pleasure. Now, Feist is definitely an artist that a lot of people definitely have a lot of, like, very big respect for, pretty much. For, like, her discography and stuff like that, you know. Personally, I wouldn't say I'm the most well-versed in Feist's, like, music, pretty much. I mean, I haven't heard Let It Die or The Reminder yet, but I'm gonna have to give those records a shot. Her last record, Middles, didn't really care for that much. I mean, I liked it like the first few times I heard it, but you know, as I got older, I definitely saw my interest in that album sort of, you know, more than just a little bit waning, pretty much. I just find it kind of underwhelming and stuff like that, and you know, not exactly sure why I don't care for it. You know, just not really a record I gravitate towards very much. So, you know, I wasn't really expecting to love this new record either, but let me say, upon hearing Pleasure, I'm very surprised, and I would say this album is probably one of the best, if not the best, singer-songwriter record I've heard this year. Like, this is such an incredible, very beautiful record, and it's definitely the kind of record that, whether you're a big Feist fan or not, I still think you could definitely be like, wow, that album was really good. Really good. Which, good. So this one definitely was a pleasant surprise for me. I like how this record is, like, really intimate and stuff like that, and so intimate, in fact, that you can pick out little mistakes out of it, but also brilliant songwriting. Of course, Feist's vocal delivery on this record is very beautiful, and production is fantastic, and yeah, it's just a really solid record from front to back. I'm gonna start by talking about the phenomenal opening track on this album, which is the title track, Pleasure. Which is a song that kind of starts out kind of slow with kind of a drone kind of slowly kind of developing for the first 20 seconds before eventually we get a really cool sort of funky bass riff that comes in along with Feist's vocal, which right off the bat pretty much, you know, gives you chills when you hear it. I've heard a journalist for Rolling Stone kind of describe the song as PJ Harvey if she only wrote like these kind of like lullabies or something like that, which I could totally see that, and but I really do feel like it's Feist's vocal delivery that I think really does make this song just so damn memorable, and make the lyrics definitely just total ear candy in my opinion. And also, of course, she does come in with a really cool, sort of gnarly guitar riff. It's sort of sounding very welcome in there, while still having plenty of, you know, acid and viscera to it. Da-na-na-na, 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 da-na-na-na-na-na. It really does show off her skills as a guitar player, in my opinion. And I also do like kind of the rising percussion as well as the gang vocals at the end and the kind of swelling mellotron strings and whatnot. It's definitely by far one of the best singles of the year in my opinion. Yeah. The song I Wish I Didn't Miss You strips everything back to just Feist and a guitar, but you know, again, a song where I feel like what really makes the lyrics on this song that much more memorable is her vocal presence here on this track, sort of talking about he's kind of trying to when she's talking about this relationship where she's like trying to find a way to talk about it, but also in the mind to let it go. Go, and and she comes through with definitely some very surprising yet very beautifully poetic lyrics, like "You sent in spiders to fight for you," where I feel like she really gives off kind of a strong vocal performance. Even if it's like kind of washed out in robotic effects for a couple of passes. Uh, and I also really like the lines of, "It was so mystifying to see you so changed. I felt some certainty you must have died, because how could I live if you're still alive?" Definitely uh, some pretty, definitely a lot of power to those lyrics, and very direct, but in the best of ways. The song "Get High," the song "Get Not High, Get Not Low" is a song driven by like kind of this stream of like layered, multi-tracked percussion that sounds really nice. Like I'm hearing like percussion like just about on every corner, but it's really like it's kind of subdued, but at the same time, you really do get the feel of it, and it really drives the song really well. Well, I think, and also along with again another very memorable, very unique guitar riff on the song. The song and one song where the lyrics are pretty few and the vocals are like kind of hushed, but at the same time you could tell there's definitely plenty of emotional impact to them. When she says stuff like, "As long as I stay closed like that, secretive to stay attacked, well, that is not fun. That's why I couldn't trust anyone at all." All and like the song. And I also do really like the layered harmonies in the chorus. I think are really nice as well. And also, even the ending of the song sounds like really interesting because, like, I'm hearing like a variety of percussion instruments sounding as if they're like, falling over or like, getting played accidentally in kind of an off kilter way, sort of showing off like really beautiful sort of accident here. Accident here. The song "Lost Dreams" is one of the quieter, more sleepier cuts on the record, but still definitely one with plenty of impact, and probably the most surprising part of this song for me is the second verse. When he says, "I used to make it so it would all come to togetherness. Even my day. I had a dream, I am a dreamer, and I saw all about his goodness, became so badass, blacking out, and it's called The Name of Love." And she like almost explodes vocally on that part, which is like by far one of my favorite moments on that song. And also like the layered, some really nice layered vocal harmonies on here, especially in that chorus. I mean, it sounds so beautiful. Like we have where like Feist's lead vocal becomes a background vocal, and all the layered Feist harmony vocals are kind of taking the lead. But it just sounds so like downright beautiful in my opinion. The song "Any Party" is another one of my favorite tracks on the record. Which I think it's interesting how this song, like, it's a lot more like energetic and kind of peppy in the verses, but in the chorus it kind of quiets things down a little bit. But at the same time, it's what I think really works for this song pretty much, as opposed to kind of making it just kind of a basic, party song rather. And I like to think that the line of, I'd leave any party for you, 'cause no party's so sweet as our party at two, like, could be a metaphor, pretty much, instead of literally a party, even though he does mention, like, being tired of clowns and balloons in one line. Uh, line. And also, like, she gives off just really colorful, just golden performance in the second verse. First about planning about how his significant other planned on meeting her on her way home, and she tried reaching him on his new flip phone. And but then also revealing, like, I won't lead you astray, and I got your back every day. And I love that ending part. The huge gang vocals at the end definitely really do bring the song to life, along with the very kind of colorful Beatlesy kind of keyboard work on there too. And it has a nice kind of foot stomping sort of rhythm to it. With the kind of sparse percussion and whatnot. And the end of the song actually is pretty funny because it features like all these different like field recordings at the end of what sounds like Feist playing the song at her house with a bunch of people singing singing the response vocals of I'd leave any party for you, as well as sounds of like somebody getting into his car, a dog barking, as well as crickets, and even an SUV passing by playing the song Pleasure. Sure, like you'd have to kind of crank up the volume if you want to hear more of the sound effects, but I think it's interesting how at the same time you can still definitely hear Pleasure being blasted in that SUV. The song, which transitions into the song "A Man Is Not His Song," which is kind of a song which I think sort of takes on kind of the process of songwriting a little bit. Like, not exactly sure what the meaning of this song is, but at the same time, it just sounds so beautiful. The idea of a man not being his song, and a song being a promise and stuff. And her whimsical vocal performance definitely like amplifies kind of these beautiful sentiments even more. And I also do really like the ending vocal harmonies. More than a melodies needed, more than a melodies needed. Just total candy to listen to right there. Need to listen to right there. Which at first, may sound kind of annoying to one ear, but once you like kind of let go of that little inhibition, you've got it stuck in your head. And I do like how, and also do really like how Feist sings a couple of lines, which are responded by a layered, like choir, sort of giving response of "Though We All Want to Sing Along." I thought was definitely very nice, very nice, and the song even samples a Mastodon song at the end, like kind of out of the blue. It's kind of like it sounds all beautiful and stuff, and then all of a sudden a sample of a metal band appears, and you're like, whoa, but at the same time it really works. Like, I mean, I did check out an interview after listening to this album, and she said that she still has no idea why a Mastodon sample ended up on there, but that's pretty much what I think makes it work so much for people, including myself. Then we go into another favorite track of mine on this album, as I've kept on listening to the record, which is the song "The Wind," which probably has some of the best production on the song, like, on the song, the peppy keyboards, really kind of steady drum machine on there also. The guitar line, I think, really does drive it really well. Well, the piano, as well as Colin Stetson putting on their really nice horn arrangement on there as well. Well, and also definitely some beautiful little lyrics that feel like kind of like an extended memoir, pretty much. Pretty much. But following that is probably my favorite track on the record, which is like the second single from the record, which would be the song Century. Century, I mean, this song definitely is one satisfying 6-minute epic right here. And really bringing some true power to her lyrics here when she says stuff like, could have been easier than a decade of days, sort of reflecting on her struggles with life and sort of tying it in with kind of sort of scientific sort of things about how a century goes. And great guitar riff on the song. Feist gives off an incredible vocal performance. Like the song, like especially gets like super like this like intriguing to listen to when she comes in with those layered vocals. And I do think it is really beautiful how at the end we have Jarvis Cocker sort of sort of informing the audience of like how long a century is, which is like 3,155,973,600 seconds, 876 million hours, or 6,500 days. Almost as long as one of those dark, endless nights of the soul. So, like, it's definitely very beautiful, and it definitely does fit, does, like, pretty much sum up the whole kind of sentiment of the song, I think, really well. Well, as well as featuring some great production on there. Really like the percussion and the bass do add some nice rhythm to the song, and also I do really like that kind of that screeching organ at the end. Definitely does sound really nice on there too. And I also do think it is interesting how the song, like, it's sounding all incredible and stuff, and then all of a sudden it cuts, like, all of a sudden. So you're like enjoying your listening experience and stuff. So much so that, like, kind of at the end when you hear it cut, you're like, whoa, what happened? But, at the same time, it definitely is beautiful, and, it's definitely best to just kind of keep it there. The song Baby Be Simple is one that's another one of kind of the sleepier cuts on the record, but still at the same time, definitely one that really does show off her lyrical prowess, pretty much. By far, probably the most lyrical song on here in my opinion. And also, like, the ending odyssey of instrumentation, which reminds me of something maybe the Beatles could have done on something like the White Album, or whatever. Or whatever. And, of course, great vocal performance, like with the rest of the album. Boom. The song I'm Not Running Away is the shortest song on the record, after all these kind of longer cuts for a majority of the record, which is definitely a song I do really like, the kind of twangy guitar riff on there, which I think sees her kind of, borrow elements from, like, folk, maybe a little alternative country in there too, and some really beautiful kind of mellotron on like the cello setting here on this track. Definitely. So, and while I do really like the lyrics on the song and the kind of, you know, and the kind of intense ending, this one is probably my least favorite track on the record. I mean, it does feel like a little too short for me, in my opinion, and it could have been much improved if it were made like a bit longer. And plus the lyrics on the song, while I do really like them, do seem to kind of pale in comparison a little bit as well. The song Young Up, which is by far one of the most kind of starkly kind of stripped back songs on the record, basically just drums, bass, and an organ. So an organ definitely is one that still closes out the album on the best note. And it's like this really kind of beautiful song. Sort of, I think, the closest to a song about death here on this record, but, not like an incredibly heart-wrenching one. Just kind of one that sort of, sees her sees the character sort of in this moment of introspection over, the fact that she got tired before she noticed she was done and stuff like that. Like, it's definitely very beautiful right there. So yeah, this is definitely just a really solid record from front to back. Like I said earlier in the video, it's definitely one that I would highly recommend you check out. Like, if you're tired of like singer-songwriter music and indie folk having to be like all sentimental and stuff like that all the time, if you want something that's maybe not without sentiment but still like at the same time a much more kind of optimistic, kind of more poignant approach to that kind of thing, definitely the album for you right here. And also if you like your indie folk music to be kind of a little unadorned and sort of like stripped back and incredibly intimate with like plenty of little like mistakes and whatnot, definitely a record I would put in that category for you to check out pretty much. Like I said, while I'm not necessarily the most well-versed in Feist right now, I still definitely do think this is a great record, and this is definitely bound to go on my year-end list when I do my top 50 albums of 2017. So yeah, I'm definitely going to give this album a strong 8 out of 10. 10 because it's like that good. So that's my review of the new Feist album, which is called Pleasure. And I'll see you for episode 173.